Hey, welcome back to the Fit to Survive channel. So we're continuing the project that we started last week, or should I say we discussed last week. So we'll be taking this limited edition. This is the Roadinox Companion. If you did not see that video, basically this is a 91mm limited edition from 2023. And you got the wooden scales. Something unique about it, it has this box cutter on it. And in place of this small blade, you have this nail file. And so last week, basically I discussed, just kind of asking what you guys would like to see done to this. And overwhelmingly, the choices were to do brass liners. So we were replacing the original liners with these brass liners. And then the next decision made was to use the Spyderco Roadie. So we'll be adding this blade, it'll be on a layer of its own. So the cool thing about using the Roadie is that we will be leaving both the original blade and we'll also be keeping the nail file. And so this is gonna go from being a 3-layer knife to a 4-layer knife. But anyways, so what we need to do is we'll go ahead and start taking this apart. And so for the time being, I'll set these to the side and we'll take this open. And I'm kind of curious if they actually glued this on or if they just have it where it pops on like the original plastic scales do. Anyways, we're about to find out. Definitely do not want to damage the scales. Something I pointed out last week, I'll point out one more time. You can see right here, if I point with this, right here, there's a bit of a gap. You see like the knife fits into there very easily, where it's not very flush with the liner. And so kind of a little flaw from Victorinox. And so hopefully that's something that we'll be able to get rid of whenever we reassemble this. Gotta slide this under here. All right, so really cool. You see this is not glued on, it is just snapped on. So that's really good. All right, we'll do the same thing to the other side. All right, so this one didn't come off as well. You can see some of the wood kind of popped up here. I think it'll be okay whenever we reattach it. We might use some epoxy. All right, so there are the scales. Of course, we will be reusing those with these brass liners. And I think it's gonna look really great together. I think it's a good choice that you guys made. Thank you, of course, to everybody who did submit their choice, like what they'd like to see. So for those who maybe selected something different other than the Roadie and the brass liners, we'll be doing some of the other projects, of course, in the future, and we'll be using that hawkbill blade and some other stuff like that. All right, so next step is we're gonna drill this open and remove the tools. And so that we'll go ahead and we'll lower the camera down so you guys get a good view of this. All right, so here is the box opener tool. Kind of oily there. But it's pretty cool. All right, so that is the companion disassembled. And so what we'll do next is we'll take apart the Spyderco Roadie. So this will go here. And we'll be using these two springs to go under that. So it's a fairly thick tool, as you can see here. That's why we need two springs for that. All right, so those two go with that. Also, what we're gonna be doing is we'll also replace this, the original spacer that goes next to the Snell file. Be replacing that with also a brass spacer. All right, so we got this brass spacer here, and we'll use that next to this. That'll just make the whole thing look a lot better with the brass liners next to that. All right, so the only thing we need to do now is to modify these springs and the Spyderco blade. So we'll start with the Spyderco blade. What we need to do is we're going to peen in some brass and then re-drill that out. That way it'll basically match the size of these brass pins. You see that it's too big. So we'll do that right now. All right, so here's after peening and after basically kind of sanding that down, get it nice and flush. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill this out again, and we'll be using the 2.5mm drill bits again. And I'll do this off camera simply because I want to make sure I get this in the middle, and I'll make sure it's going straight, and so I don't need the camera in front of me. But I'll do that, and I'll show you how that turned out. All right, so here it is after peening that in and then drilling it out. And so basically this is now gonna fit onto the 2.5mm brass rod just the way we want it to. So go like that. All right, so what we need to do now is we're going to modify these springs just a bit. All right, so you can see we've taken this down just enough to where this fits right below the level, and it shouldn't cause any trouble even though it travels. Shouldn't be tapping the spring at all. So basically, it's got spring to it, but it shouldn't cause any trouble. All right, so do the same thing with the second spring, and then we'll basically be done for the modifications. Here are the springs after modification. Put these right here, and then this will go right there. All right, so we can actually get rid of these now. They're no longer needed. Go that over here. And these will basically spread out here. All right, so that's the basic setup. And then one last thing we're going to do, something somebody mentioned in the comments, actually I think 2 or 3 people mentioned, is that with us having the Spyderco blade, that'd be great to replace the original blade with a serrated blade. And so instead of me grinding that down, I do have one that is already from the factory serrated. So we'll be using that. And also we're gonna be needing this washer that comes with it, because on the original spring, on the original liner, you actually will have this small indentation that you see right here. They stamped, it's not it actually. Sorry, here it is. Right here they have this like little indentation that they've stamped in there, and that actually creates, I think it's like 0.02, maybe 0.04. I can't remember now off the top of my head. Anyways, since we don't be using this liner, we'll be needing this washer to go with that. All right, so this is basically be our setup. And so all we have left to do now is actually the pins. And so we have the pins right here. So we are basically ready to start. So let's go, we'll start on this side. So these liners are from Sack World Customs. Custom Sack World. I always get it backwards, I think. It's Custom Sack World. Anyways, he has a shop out in Ukraine. So it's a pretty cool liner that he makes. Sometimes it does require some small tweaking to get it to fit just right, but it's all good. Widen that up just a bit. All right, so there it is all assembled. You see the roadie blade does not protrude at all, and so it won't cause any troubles. Maybe if you listen to my previous video, I spoke with the advantage of the roadie blade is that it does not take up nearly as much space on the closed knife as the Dragonfly per se does. And so basically it's just a small section here that you just pinch, you pull open, and it gives you that nice blade. All right, and then you got the serrated blade here. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So what we need to do next is we'll use these pins that we got during disassembling, and we'll go and we'll pin this shut. And last thing to do will just be to attach these scales. We'll probably use maybe some epoxy on them, keep them to stick down a little bit better than they were originally maybe. But anyways, that's approximately how it's going to look, kind of like that. And so let's go ahead and we'll take this outside and pin this shut. All right, so you can see I've cut these off camera because I need to really see, make sure I got it just the right height. You can see here I left kind of a millimeter on each of these, except for this one gets a little bit more. All right, so done with this now. Just need to attach the scales. And I'm gonna go ahead and use an epoxy, simply because after you reapply scales, they don't tend to hold on as well as if they were new. And if you see right here, this is the side that some of the wood popped up when I removed it. So I added a little drop of super glue and I reattached that. But still, nonetheless, I want to use just a little bit of epoxy. But this is gonna look so amazing. So it's good, we'll epoxy this on and then basically we'll be done with that. All right, so we have this clamp down. So I'm going to go ahead and let this epoxy set. And then take these clamps back off. And I'll show you how it turned out. All right, so I've let the epoxy set. So basically this is now completed. I've also added the keychain ring here, you can see. So this is how it turned out. I think it looks great together. The wood with the stainless and then the brass together. I think it's a very classic look. As I mentioned before, the Roadie blade, one of the major advantages of it is that it's so, I think it fits so well. Whereas compared to like a Dragonox, how the Dragonfly blade is much more aggressive and very obvious. This right here, it's not, doesn't stick out as much. I think it's a bit more pocket friendly. So got nice and snap to it there. Right, and there's a serrated blade. See, it's super sharp. It's original. It's rated from Victorinox. All right, and then the nail file tool, again unique to this companion knife, which I guess I should call this a Roadinox Companion. All right, so you can see the tools are still nice and snappy, exactly what we want to see after assembly. There's that really cool box opener. All right, same thing for the back tools. They're all still nice and snappy also. All right, so that is everything for this knife. So once again, thank you for everybody who voted on this project, helping me decide the liners and the Spyderco blade for this build. If you enjoyed doing that, be sure to give this video a like. Let me know that you'd like to do a project like this again, where I let you guys kind of like choose some options on these projects. And if you haven't subscribed, be sure to do that. And if you already are subscribed, thanks a lot for your subscription. And this still fits right here into this box. All right, thanks for watching.